Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to talk to your event. My name is Ricardas Jascemskas, or Richard, to pronounce it easier. I'm from Lithuanian Game Developers Association. I'm really glad that I have this chance to talk to you remotely and hopefully can answer questions live after the talk. And it's, I'm far away, but in some sense we are very close together because of recent events and recent activities between Taiwan and Lithuania. So I'm really happy to be part of this event, and wish you good luck with the rest of the event and rest talks. And my goal is today to talk about Lithuanian games development industry, what we're doing, a bit of our history, and what are our plans in the future, and what are kind of our biggest, most interesting success stories. So first, just shortly about me. I was working all my professional life with games. I was a games editor for various magazines for many years, and then joined one of the largest companies, Nordcurrent, as a PR, social media manager, event manager. We had a big hit, Cooking Fever, and it was a lot of work. And then I joined another studio, which is called Sneaky Box. And they work with outsourcing mostly and projects for other studios. Example in this picture, it's famous YouTuber Boris the Slav. So they did several games with him. And then recently, in the last, 2 years or so, I was working with Game Developers Association, and I'm very happy to now dedicate my full time to the activities of the association as we managed to get some funding, and talk about the industry, organize events, create a podcast. A lot of activities are restarting as we hoped after the pandemic. That's the current situation, and several topics I want to touch a bit. So very shortly, history about Lithuanian game dev and what's happening now, and what are the main ideas for the future. When I talk about Lithuania, I recently realized that we need to figure out what was happening around at the same time with our neighbors, because we are quite late to the industry, and around us, even like Eastern European and Nordic countries, they started much earlier. So first examples of games developed in Finland, in Sweden, in Poland, and for us, history started quite late, in the very late 90s or very early 2000s. So one of the first ideas was by the students group in one of the technology universities. They started to do demo scene projects. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's like a short interactive CG movies rendered in real time. Not interactive, but rendered in real time, and they became quite famous in the region. And one of the guys, Aras Pranskevičius, he became the first person who was hired by Unity founders. So that's why we have a long and big history with Unity. And then, a lot of people got involved from Lithuania there. And all this long-term partnership started, and kind of it ignited the community, let's say, of Lithuanian development. And they were the first to organize Game Jam, which was 20 years ago in Lithuania. So kind of lots of cool ideas from them, and the nice thing is that they still keep the website, and they have all the history there. So it's if you're interested more in details about this very early stage, unprofessional stage, let's say. It's cool to check and find all the projects what they worked on. Then we had an example of the Ilya Laurs, who became very famous with his mobile applications before the smartphones. GetJar, there was this big platform, I don't know, maybe some of you heard about it. So he started with very early mobile games, and then some first connections to abroad, to producing games for other countries. And then kind of the official, let's say, official start in the industry was by company Volgamus, which is then rebranded themselves as North Current, and they released the first game in 2002. So this year is quite important for us. We're celebrating 20 years for kind of official industry, and a lot of things were started to happen. The next step is important game, which is still kind of the biggest till the day from this, let's say, not AAA but AA strategy. I think it was in like 2007, 2008 something, and the guys now got the rights back for the game, and they promised that they will kind of recreate it or adapt it to the modern systems, and then we can play it for free. So hopefully we can get it. Then there was another development that we got more and more international connections, and like North Current started to work with Activision and DreamWorks and got a lot of experience from that. And then another thing which was really important for our kind of art field development in Lithuania is we had a Koei Tecmo office for many years, and it was just dedicated to the art production. So basically almost every senior artist who has his own company or who works in some other big studio is one way or another connected to Koei Tecmo. So it was very important and very early in the industry to get this kind of trust from Japanese, this big Japanese company. And then kind of the latest step, which we are still into it now. It was the explosion of free-to-play gaming. I mentioned Cooking Fever, which was like a super big hit globally. And then our community started to form the development association, which now we have around 60 physical members and 25 companies. And the indie era started in Lithuania, which still we have like the biggest hit, who like still the winner in this area. It's a game called Human Fall Flat. It got I think 5-6 million sales on consoles, and then very successful release as a paid product for mobile, which is like 20 plus million. Very big popularity actually in Asian countries. Very big hit, and we are now waiting for the news from them about the sequel, because they promised, of course, that we'll do some kind of sequel one day. Might be actually when your conference is happening, maybe there are already some news, because they kind of promised to do something early this summer. And it was like for them it was very lucky, because it coincided with the YouTube start of streaming of Let's Plays. So they got like hundreds of millions of views from like smaller and then to the very big YouTubers, because the game is kind of a physics puzzle, clumsy game, which is like it's very fun to watch together, or play together with friends, or watch as YouTubers play. So what's happening now, a bit of statistics, is since we are working as an association from 2014, so we kind of trying to track down everyone more or less who is working. So it's both official companies and like solo developers, let's say, who work like as individuals, because you can't release games as an individual. It's not necessary to have a company. So right now we have around 70 of them, but it was always quite active, let's say, since like 10 years ago, for example. More and more companies or people want to join the industry and do something for themselves or for companies. So that's like very steady growth. But the biggest story right now in Lithuania is the huge jump in the industry employees, because in 2020, in the late 2020 and through the last year, and still is happening now, is the influx of Belarus companies because of the illegitimate elections as considered by the West and many global community. Illegitimate elections in Belarus, and kind of a lot of IT companies and a lot of games companies, they didn't want to stay there. So a lot of them relocated to Lithuania, with the biggest one, Wargaming, has already like several hundred people working, and is by far the largest company in Lithuania, with many others joining. So it was like very big jump in numbers, and we and now it's kind of big opportunity for us to grow so fast, but it's also like a big challenge how to unite the community, and it's still continuing because of other things happening. And yeah, wanted to showcase a bit about the sizes of companies based by people and then later based by revenues. So even though we have quite many companies or individuals for like small country, small market, it's many of them are like very small. It's the numbers are based on European Union standard. So the large company is considered only from 250. So since 2 years ago we didn't have even like the large company. So we have the only one now, Wargaming, which is the size, and then all the others are smaller and smaller. And majority of the companies, of course, are as you see, like are very small. But it's growing. Like the goal is to kind of grow from the bottom to have more like mid companies, or like small mid companies as indies, and help grow the larger ones to kind of become even more like global in the sense. Some of the names, hope you have heard some of them, and percentage of people who work for them. So even though we have a lot of very small companies, but the majority of people shift to the large ones, because like as I mentioned, like Wargaming has right now 100 I think even people. Other examples from Belarus is Melsoft, Glera Games, Belka Games. So they have around 100, let's say. Nordkaren, the largest studio in Lithuania, is like 150 now, and others are growing to this small mid ground. It's nice to see, but the goal is to have more and more like this. And several how to say areas which Lithuania is quite famous regionally or even globally. So as I mentioned earlier, this big growth of mobile casual games. So Nordkaren was very successful with several games, and recently they got a new hit, even 2 hits on their hands. So they're continuing to evolve this mobile casual segment. Game Insight, which is the biggest company by revenue in Lithuania, which it has head office in Lithuania and operate all the revenue, everything goes through Lithuania, even though they operate in the wide region of Eastern Europe. And they focus now on kind of mobile casual games, but more like shooters and action games. And recent very big success story is a company which is both in Latvia and Lithuania. So it's called Astoti, and they got very successful in doing hyper casual games. And a couple of years ago, got on this trend and like has billion downloads and very fast company growth, and a lot of things happening there. And as coincidence or not, but as we had like the big basis of mobile first companies and mobile focused, so a lot of companies which relocated from Belarus, they're also mobile, because it's easy for them to get additional talent and to kind of find the culture here, similar culture, and all the processes developed. So it's Glera or Visor, it's like double company. They're like famous for this Mahjong game, and then Melsoft with Family Island, and Wargaming. Like initially, it was also initially they relocated the MS1 studio, which is focused on mobile games, so like World of Tanks Blitz, and they're working on two new games here in Lithuania, dedicated to mobile. And I guess this is even like a bit older numbers. Right now, I think they are already above 500 people. So a lot of big shifts happening here. Kids games also interesting market, interesting niche, which some Lithuanian studios managed to jump into very early. So like Pepe Play, Tutotunes, these companies, they are, I don't know, already more than 10 years old. and they got they noticed the market, then the demand quite early, and they got very successful. I mean, Pepe Play is quite small company, but it has good niche. Tututuns is one of the largest companies with 100+ people, and they even have a sub-brand for like a bit twin games. So we had several others also companies which worked with kid games, which were famous, but kids market, it's very complicated, so it changes fast, and they have to change the business models and shift to other audiences. But if you find a kids game, it might be, especially from Tututuns, as they have a lot of them. It might be it's from Lithuania. With VR, it was jumping backwards and forwards. Sometime it's kind of gets on the activity and then goes down in waves. I guess in many countries is like this. Like people keep experimenting and finding this best case practice or best product. So we have several examples to check. The latest one, I guess, it's Studio Nieko. They're focusing on purely on mobile, and they're quite successful. So released one game recently, and they're now working on a very big project, which will be like a single player VR, but like for, I don't know, 7-8 hours of gameplay. So should be very, very cool and interesting example. Also kind of not purely a game, but like an interactive experience was Trial of Angels, which is created based on like very, very famous, like our most famous composer and painter, Čiurlionis. So you kind of get transported inside his paintings. So it traveled around a lot of festivals and got a lot of global awards and press. And hope the studio they are working also right now on the new experiences connected with films and interactive VR. About the industry, what's happening in terms of activity, it's like it became very, very active at the same time, when Belarus companies started to join. So like 5 years ago we had few positions open. Right now we have like lots of, I guess, as in many countries, there is this lack of talent and then the need for talent, because there are so many, the player numbers are growing, the industry is growing, so we need more people everywhere. It's very active in this sense. The salary started to grow a lot in the last year, in the last couple of years, and kind of already now average almost the same as the like general IT sphere, which was not the case a few years ago. This is euros with taxes. Revenue, continuing the kind of topic, we had several not so steady growth, but several important jumps. Like before 2014, there is even nothing to show for a lot. Like, would be very, very small. But the first jumps were because of the mobile growth, and then another jump was also mostly connected to mobile, because eventually companies could transfer all the sales to Lithuania, because earlier it wasn't possible to sell mobile games from Lithuania. It was restricted. So that's why, and right now it's like several other years it's a steady growth, but we still don't have the numbers for 21. They usually come in the end of summer. So, it will be very interesting to see, because we will see the jump. I think quite a considerable jump because of also like Belarus companies and the new hits which were released in 2021. And if you look at the size based on revenue, the picture is even more narrow in that sense, that the absolute majority of companies are like very small, so up to 2 million of revenues. And we have only several companies based on 2020. For next update will be a bit different, I guess, this graphic. But for like 2020, it's like on one hand, on like almost two hands, you can count the bigger companies. The names are almost the same here. No Belarus companies still, because it's they mostly started from 21. Like financial year, almost the same companies who are big in size, so they are of course they're big in revenue, but there are some exceptions, like some hit games, which, like, for example, like Happy Magenta, they have several mobile hit games and they have only, like, I don't know, 10 people working for them. Yeah, and some we count in the industry not only game developers but also like services connected to games. Like, for example, CG Trader is a very large, one of the largest computer graphics images trading companies. So if you create 3D images, for example, so you can upload them and sell, like, in the market. So Gosu is like AI development company which is connected to games. Unity, of course, everybody knows, and yeah, others are development companies. Interesting thing what happened only in 2020 is we started to see profits publicly. That was not the case earlier, so it was very interesting to count and see how well are we doing. So I guess yeah, the average number is quite okay, and yeah, several cases, but it ranges widely from, like, minus for, like, some, like, in the early stages startup companies for, like, very large revenue to some other companies which just get this big hits and very good spot in that time. So yeah, also it will be interesting to check once we get last year numbers and how it will develop. So yeah, this is I'm showing it specifically because this is very unusual and very new thing, and very kind of Lithuania is trying to be more open with data for everything. So it's very good for us that we can really, like, check and see everything and share with the community. Another interesting thing which might be useful to know and compare to your market is which platforms studios develop games for and what do they want to develop. We did this review almost at the same time as GDC did, like, globally, and actually the answers were quite similar, and this graphics is a bit similar. So most of it is a switch, like switch from, like, not complete switch, but going from mobile to more like PC games, and especially trying to develop ports for consoles. Because earlier it was very complicated to release a game on console. You have a lot of restrictions and a lot of challenges to do that. But right now it's becoming easier. And yeah, in last year we had several. I think it was record year for Lithuanian games released on consoles, because we had several earlier PC successful games which were transferred, ported to consoles and also released successfully. So I think we'll see more and more of that. Like multi-platform approach. Specifically, we count PC games just to see this basis, because so from one point we have a lot of these big mobile companies, but a lot of small companies, small studios, they want to develop PC games because I guess everybody knows that it's now very hard to jump into mobile space. It's like very few successful cases. You have to be big basically to jump into mobile. So people try with PC, and we don't count VR games because they were very experimental in these later years, and you would get, like, I don't know, 5 short VR experiences in 1 year. So it doesn't really count as a PC game. We don't count them. But yeah, so for last year it was like a record year for PC game releases, and it had to be even more of them, but it's pandemic, so it was postponed. So probably this year we'll have even more of them. And we have we created like a Steam curator page for to gather all the Lithuanian games released on Steam. So if you want to check the list, which is quite large already, you just find us like Games from Lithuania or Lithuanian Game Developers Association. And you can go through the list with like awards, which games got which awards, and just see which ones are upcoming from already announced games. So promoting the resource and connect and follow us. Some examples of PC games, which also some of them already are released on consoles. So the Bloody Rally show, like procedurally generated rally, it was very cool idea created by Solid developer, very big hit and quite known globally. It's called Inmost. It's like a bit like a side-scrolling adventure pixel art game. But for them, what was cool, they jumped into the first wave of Apple Arcade and got very good deals out of it, got a lot of recognition, and yeah, got all the possible awards here in Lithuania. And yeah, just very nice story, also created by only two people. One of them was from Ukraine, one of them was from Russia actually, and they came to Lithuania after 2014. All these events started there, so because they couldn't just work together there, so they chose Lithuania as a country to live and create this game, and released it a couple of years ago. Recent actually hit, which were almost all the industry was kind of rooting for it. It's called Crowns and Pawns, and because it's like the game about Lithuania and created by also small indie studio. It took many years for them to finish it because they both work for outsourcing and for their own game. So it's like very kind of love child and kind of love letter to Lithuania. So if you are interested in traditional point and click adventure games, so yeah, please check it out. It was released a month ago. It was released a month ago from the recording, but in the beginning of May. Globally on Steam, so yeah, please check it out, and you will know more about Lithuania from it. Some other games which you can try as an early access. Very cool game by the Solid developer who does everything with like pigs, pig based games. So this is like this kind of dungeon crawler with cards. The game is released both for mobile and for PC, and for PC a bit later. For mobile it already won. It was our first game who won the regional Eastern and Central European awards as a best mobile game last year. And a lot of good reviews for it. Good vibes. If maybe it will be interesting to try if you like this kind of games. Then it's part of Sorcery. It's a bit complicated and very deep fantasy game, and the Stardeus is by the same solo guy who was released this rally game. And what's interesting about him is that he is streaming almost everything what he develops. Almost all his development process, so you can find by the name game or by the studio name on Twitch, on other platforms. So yeah, just interesting to follow him. And when we talked to him, he said, like, doesn't it bother you that you're streaming? But he said that as he's like solo developer, for him it's even better to have like a stream and a chat. People ask questions, and he's like it helps him to feel connected in the way, and it helped him specifically this streaming. It helped him to launch a very successful Kickstarter for this game, which he got, like, he didn't ask for a lot of money, but he got them very fast. So very interesting example how to develop and how to kind of create a community around you. Some upcoming titles which we hope will release some sooner, some a bit later. Painting shooter, kind of interesting idea, also by solo guy. A bit bigger and more ambitious game, and which we also kind of root for. It's like kind of hack and slash RPG where everything is based from tiles. One of, I guess, bigger games will be called Outbreak Iceland, which is like open world, like a survival adventure with photo mechanics, very high quality visuals. One of the very few games which are created with Unreal in Lithuania, because in Lithuania we have like very big Unity community historically, but some people are starting to work with Unreal also. and this is one of the biggest examples of Unreal games. They already got the Epic grant and all this interest from the Unreal community, let's say. Some more titles. Quickly to look through. Maybe it will be interesting to follow. Card Adventures, so from like solo developer who created even international team right now. Then there is this experiment also with Unreal and with a geocaching game. I don't know if you're familiar with the term, but please look up it. It's like when you travel the world and look for like kind of secrets hidden in various places and use hints. So he wants to do that in the game. And then the recent news, which was quite a nice surprise for us also, is the guy coming back from Factorio team in Czech Republic, and he creating his own like train management and strategy game, and got recently a publishing deal from Team 17, which is quite big UK publisher. So very important game for Lithuania. They didn't announce the date yet, but should be quite soon. A lot of games. Not everyone, not all of the games I mentioned here, but you can check on our Steam page. And other important, as I mentioned, part is a lot of companies are doing outsourcing together with their own development cycles, because in Lithuania it's still a problem that we don't have very developed funding programs for young studios, especially. We don't really have like a VC funds or anything really serious that you could apply as like Scandinavia countries have, or Poland or Germany. So we are kind of trying to work in this direction to create something similar here, but that's one of our big goals as an association. So it's a lot of studios have to offer some services. So we asked around which are the most important, the most active. So 3D modeling, programming, art, of course. I guess as in many countries is the case. Some interesting cases about the companies which work internationally. So Sneaky Box and Atari and other publishers, they are kind of creating this long-term series of classic arcade games. And then the studio, which like for themselves, they work as VR, they focus on VR, but for the outsourcing, they work as like a 2D or 3D art developers. So Supercell is like their main contracting for them. So that's very cool. Very cool stories that they can tell openly about it. It's like this partnership. And then example of Tug of Joy, which I mentioned, a small studio working on their own games, but a lot of work doing together with like Swedish, Polish studios. That's very typical for Lithuanian studios, smaller ones especially, or even like specialized as Sneaky Box, like for example, they just specialize on this outsourcing and porting and stuff like that. Events which might be interesting in one way or another to follow online, or if you'll have a chance, of course it's a long shot, but if you'll have a chance to be in Europe or somewhere nearby, so very highly recommended. So in the end of July we will have a DevGam event, which is quite known in the Eastern European regions. In the Eastern European countries, they are from Ukraine, and they would usually do events like in Kiev, in Minsk, in Russia. But right now, they planned earlier to come here to try Vilnius. But right now, the situation, Vilnius is even more important as a central hub of the event happening. So please follow them at least and see what will happen. For us, it's like a big experiment in a way, big challenge in the sense that it will be like a first big games business event in Lithuania. So we expect I don't know, around 1,500 or 2,000 people. It will be very interesting how it will happen. Blon is animation and games festival, very different event, but very nice in the way that it connects animation and games industries. So if you have some friends working just with animation, please spread the word. And because it's like we collect animation from not from Hollywood, let's say. So we have some Asian films, some European films, and then we try to collect also games which would be, how to say, a bit artful in that sense. Which would be interested also for animation people who have some kind of connections to animation or like this artwork development. So it's beginning of September in our port city of Klaipėda, and our like very big event which we didn't have for several years in the pandemic. It's called Game On, and recently we did it together with Comic-Con locally. And it was very successful, and that's like a very big boost for us for next year. Of course, we don't have the dates or anything yet, but also you can follow, and it's like it's not even big in terms of Lithuania, but it's really big in terms of Baltics, let's say, or even Nordics, because it's both a consumer and business event. So we get like 20,000 or even more consumer visitors. That's a big question for next year, how to approach it, and hopefully, the situation will allow us to do it. Some links to take a screenshot, I guess, if you want to follow us more. So we mostly use Slack for the cooperation and for communication. We have several open channels there. Of course, website and Facebook page quite active still. And then dedicated pages for our events. So it's like Game Awards, which is good actually page to look at to see which games were like the biggest ones in Lithuania, because we do the awards for like 7 or 8 years, and we have all the history there. So please take a look of other games which were important for our country. Game Jam, as I mentioned, it's like very big and I have to say historically important event, because it started 20 years ago when we had some gaps, and now we're doing it like steadily for like many years, and doing it together, of course, with Global Game Jam. So that's kind of our biggest also event in terms of game development, and attracting new people to the industry. And Game On, which I mentioned, like a biggest consumer event. So that's the main information. Hopefully, I managed to kind of paint the broad picture about Lithuania and our industry. And thanks again a lot for inviting me. And I hope we can have a chance to chat, or to connect remotely. And if you're interested to know about more things about our industry, just please find me. It's very easy to find me everywhere on the networks, or write me an email. I'll be very happy to share more and to talk about the industry and possible cooperation with your companies, with your community. So thanks a lot, and hope to chat to you.
Okay, now we are on air. Hi, and nice to meet you face to face online. This is Ricardas, or Richard. And my name's Johnson, and it's very nice to have you with us. And your talk was very insightful in terms of the overview of Lithuanian game industry. So thank you for that. And now we are going to have a short Q&A session with our audience. So we have a few questions right now. Some of them are mine, and some of them are sent in from our audience. So I think the first question is mine. I think it's quite interesting to learn that Lithuanian game industry, the growth of the industry sort of started from the boom of mobile games. So
yes,
this got me thinking that, because a lot of different countries, they have very different kind of gamer or consumer makeup. So maybe like historically, Japanese play video games on consoles and very rarely on PCs. And then they almost skip the whole PC a period to mobile in recent maybe 10, 15 years. So they got a very early start on mobile market. Can you describe what kind of games do Lithuanians like to play? Like usually on what kind of platforms? Like what kind of game content do your consumers usually play?
First of all, thanks a lot for inviting me. It's a great opportunity, great chance to connect online, I guess. About the audience, so from one point, I guess Lithuanian audience, it's very similar to Eastern Europe because like PC was the biggest platform here. And, a lot of people grew up with PCs. We only got consoles quite late. So the biggest audience is for PC. It was for PC at least, many years ago. But mobile grew as everywhere. But from the development side, because, our audience in general is very small. And actually Lithuanian local games, they are not like very, very popular in domestic audience. So you always, all the developers have to look for foreign markets to market their game.
I see.
So the mobile, the start of mobile market, it was a big opportunity just to reach the global audience at once.
I see. Do you know the process of how did Koei Tecmo start their outsourcing collaboration in Lithuanian? Because there seems to be a very early kind of boost in terms of the game industry growth. So do you know what kind of decision did they make to come into Lithuanian?
That's a very interesting story, and it's kind of dark in the sense because me myself, I don't know a lot of things about it. We keep talking to the artists who grew up there, and we just actually very recently had an event dedicated to artists, and we had several senior guys of them, and we talked briefly about it. So they said the story was that the Japanese embassy was involved heavily, and we had I think at the same time we had starting these Japan days, and probably some people came from the industry, from the embassies, from the business side, and maybe they saw that there is this interest in Japanese culture, and then we had this kind of strong artists coming from the art university. So I guess that was the reason why they said, okay, we should try to open the branch for artists. But the kind of a bit sad thing it was that everything was very, very secret. So we didn't get any public information at the time. When I was journalist, I couldn't talk to anyone. I knew a lot of people who worked there, but they said, sorry, we cannot say anything.
I see. Okay. The next question is, how do developers in Lithuanian do community events? Like, are they very concentrated in only a few cities and maybe only one or few big groups that do game dev community events, or are they more spread out in many subgroups and in many different places in Lithuanian?
Thanks. It's quite concentrated. Because we have development in only 3 cities, and everything is concentrated really, really in the capital. Then there is 3 bigger studios in a second city, and one studio, some solo developers in the port city. But that's it. We don't have, or at least we don't know a lot of people, who would live in even smaller towns. So that's why, everything is concentrated in the biggest towns. We'll try to go around the smaller towns this autumn, just to go, to schools, to try to kind of, talk about the industry for the students, for the school kids, and try to see maybe there is some participants. When we do game jam, we try to involve a couple of more smaller towns, but it's usually very, very few people who participate there. So it would be nice to have a more spread out community.
I think this is probably the same situation in Taiwan as well. Most events concentrated in a couple major cities. So like we have usually 2 to 3 major cities in the west side of Taiwan that have regular gaming or game dev events. But like the east side of Taiwan have basically no local game dev groups or local game dev events. So this like it's still a very imbalanced situation. I think this is like probably the same situation happens in most aspiring industry, countries. If your games industry don't have that much of history and you don't have that many population, usually those get very concentrated in big cities.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's another question. Are there game development programs or like game dev courses in universities?
It's not a lot. That's a big issue and big question. We'll try to work. We're actually hiring another person who would be responsible just for education and career management and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the, let's say, main programs actually is connected to Asia, because one university has a program together with Korean university.
Oh.
The idea is that the 2 years there are 2 year studies in Lithuania and then 2 year studies in Korea, and then but it's a small program. Around 20 people, I guess, a year go there. And a lot of people stay in Korea and other Asian countries because of the industry size. So very few of them come back home. But and the other programs are spread out in the sense that, like, technical universities have some programming courses related to game development. There are several colleges which have mixed courses, like for animation and game development and game design. Another technical university has like a 3D modeling related to games. So it's kind of spread out, but we don't have like a lot of full game development programs in that sense.
I see. So, okay, this question is probably related to like the current political situation in Europe right now. So how is the current Ukrainian and Russian situation impacting the local game industry, since actually you are pretty nearby? I think one prominent example that you already talked about in your talk is the relocation of DevGam, right? So, like, are there other things like that happening since the start of that situation?
So I guess the biggest impact still continues with Belarus companies, because they are also, some of them were involved with Russia and with Ukraine a lot. Like example is of wargaming, because they had to sell the Russian company. But Russian, there was not a big office, but they had to somehow sell the main office in Belarus, mm-hmm. because of sanctions. So right now, even more people, I just looked at my presentation. I mentioned that there were 400 people in wargaming. Now I think we have 600 something, because during this couple of months, they try to relocate as many more people as possible to spread out from Belarus office and from other offices, mm-hmm. From Ukraine offices, with people who can travel. Because not many people can travel out of Ukraine. There are companies who are directly involved also with Russia. We don't know what will happen, for example, with Game Insight, which I mentioned in my presentation. It's like one of the biggest in Lithuania, even though it doesn't do development in Lithuania, but the head office is in Lithuania, and there are like now news that probably all their Russian development branches will have to close down or something. Then we don't know how it will impact us. So there are a lot of these connected things. But we try to keep in close contact with Ukraine, their events, with Belarus also, associations and other companies. And all the people who are in the industry and who left the countries to kind of continue the work. And we organized one of our companies, like educational company, they organized like a database of local companies who would like to, offer jobs to Ukrainian, like remote jobs or outsourcing projects for Ukrainians to do remotely. So, we try to find ways to stay connected to that and see what will happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that's a very still like an ongoing situation, and it's mostly unresolved. Okay, thank you very much for that insight. So I think those 5 questions are the questions from audience so far. I just want to say thank you again to you that this is actually very insightful and very thorough introduction to your industry, and we see there are a lot of interesting projects in mobile, in PC, and there are some of the games that we personally know. We know the game title, but we actually don't know that they're actually from Lithuanian. So like games like Human Fall Flat or Inmost, we actually saw those games on Steam, in previous months, but we really don't know that it was from Lithuania. I think that's a very good connection.
Yeah, because I mentioned it's very global outlook. Yeah. Like for us, it's very global.
Yeah.
We don't have like nationalized, industry.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's really great to know more about this insight, and hopefully there are maybe collaborations that we can do between our industries, from Lithuanian to Taiwan or from Taiwan to Lithuanian. If there are any connections that I can point to you, I'll try to refer them to you, and hopefully we can have some interesting discussion in future. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for your talk.
Thanks a lot. Hope to see you somewhere online.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.